Before I begin, allow me to describe to you a scene. Imagine yourself out in a field of grass that expanded far beyond the horizon, seemingly never ending. The spring breeze blew past you as the flowers at your feet gently glaze upon your skin, as if to give you a shower of kisses. The sun above shone down in an attempt to saturate all the colors it touches. And out in the distance, you see a faint solitary cabin, just as lonely as you are in the vast plain of green. It seems to be smiling at you with a distinct welcome. The flora all across the pasture would optimistically stare at you, almost as if wanting to tag along in a journey far from where their roots lie. Now, from this description alone, what kind of image would you imagine? For one, you could imagine something like this, plain and simple. Or you could be more like me and imagine something like this. Crazy, I know. Now, what this demonstrates is that not everyone sees the exact same thing in the exact same way. Whether it be words, images, melodies, or drawings, we all perceive it just a little bit differently. It's one of the strange attributes and idiosyncrasies that comes with being a human. We are not a hive mind. Now, I am an aspiring artist with 8 years of experience. And with these 8 years, I can confidently state that art has taught me many great things. Some of these things I'm here to share with you today, as it is useful even in the real world. Now, when I was younger, I used to be insecure. And with this insecurity, I would try and please every single person around me by doing the things I didn't want to, or saying the things I didn't mean to, and so on. Did it work? Absolutely not. It only drove me further away from the people that I wanted to get close to, and in the end, you could only wish for so much after all. People tend to be picky with who they want to like. Similar to this, when I started out drawing, I would never show any of my doodles to anyone, since I was too afraid of them not being perfect enough for anyone else to see. Well, in all fairness, I did try to show them my doodles, but the reactions were either of genuine disinterest, reluctant compliments, or a blatant slap in the face with something along the lines of, "Why does it look like that?" A tragedy. I know. 8-year-old me was devastated. I spent so much time on this drawing, several hours of sketching away with a half-chewed-up pencil, and the paper becoming so thin from how many times I've erased it that you can see through it clearly. All right, that is an exaggeration, but to an 8-year-old, that is exactly how it felt like. And the funniest thing is, I still have that drawing that I dreadfully remember. It was this one. All right, I know it looks terrible, but for something made by an 8-year-old with nothing but cheap school supplies and a sheet of paper, it isn't the end of the world. So how exactly did I overcome this problem of being judged? Well, I absolutely refuse to show anyone else my art ever since. Since you can't judge what you can't see, those were peaceful times. Great times, wonderful times actually. I had no hope of being an artist anymore, and I'll just have to accept that I'm not talented enough in this aspect, and I will never be. Happily ever after the end. But you can't exactly expect a child with so much ambition to stop there. My interest stayed, and it grew even stronger. So I started watching art tutorials, started watching YouTube videos. I even started taking art classes just so that I can learn the basics like color theory, shape language, anatomy, and so on. And after years and years of studying, approximately for 6 years, my ugly-looking scribbles went from ugly-looking scribbles to slightly more coherent-looking scribbles, but still not up to par nonetheless. So what exactly was I doing wrong here? Well, I had no idea. Or rather, I didn't know how to implement those ideas. Allow me to explain through a brief art lesson. Basically, the first thing you need to think about whenever drawing something is the composition. The composition basically tells you which aspect would go where and how the overall picture would feel. Allow me to demonstrate using a brief example. All right, by no means I am not a professional, but bear with me here. Imagine yourself drawing something like a girl with her hair blowing in the breeze. How would you do that? Well, first you would draw the girl herself, which can be broken down into something like a circle, a triangle for the jawline, something like a nose, 2 lines for the neck, and an arch for the body. And after that, you would go to the hair. How would you draw the hair? Well, what a beginner likes to do is draw every single little strand of hair, something like this, until the entire head of hair is full. So eventually, you end up with something that looks something. You end up with something that looks like this, which looks terrible. I mean, look at it. When you color it, the lines won't match up, and everything would be all messy. Now, what a more experienced artist like to do is something more like this. You start with the same steps for the head, but you can break down the hair into different shapes. So, you head here, the circle, the triangle, the nose, the two lines, the arch, all the same. And when you get to the hair, you can break it down. The bangs can be something like a triangle. The side bangs can be turned into something like a banana peel. And the back of the hair, it can be broken down into a swirly parallelogram, something that looks like this. And this one, it adds a lot more because you use less shapes, but you can still tell what it is. So after this, you can add a few more details, like a cut here, a strand there, a strand there. And eventually, when you go to coloring, it wouldn't look as messy anymore. All right, this still looks a little bit messy, so I will show you something that is more coherent. Something like this. You start with the head. And after that, you can add to the head, like the body shape, the features. And after that, you head to the swirly parallelogram. And from that swirly parallelogram, you can pause and go back to add the details on the face, something like the eyes and the nose and all that. And after that, you go back to the swirly parallelogram. And from this, you can break it down. You can add strands here. And after that, you sketch it all out, and eventually you end up with something that looks like this, which looks so much better than what I did earlier. So, what exactly am I getting at here? Well, for one, this is mainly the reason why artists start with the larger shapes before adding the smaller details. And this effect lead me to understand that the human brain is tuned to recognize the larger shapes than the local detail. This effect can be explained by a Navant figure. A Navant figure is basically something that looks like this. So in this image, which one would you see first? The large A, or that the large A is made out of several tiny X's, approximately 223. Yes, I counted. You would notice the large A, since that's what the human brain is tuned to recognize first. This is called the global precedence effect, and this effect basically explains that the global aspects of a scene are processed more rapidly than the local detail. It's mainly for survival, but still, this is why most artists tend to focus on making a thing look like a thing before adding smaller things so that the thing will be perceived as the thing and not another thing because there were too many things to distract the audience. And this is why most artists tend to start with the larger shapes before adding the details. So, again, what am I getting at here? Well, this mentality can be applied in several different places. For example, some of you would say that it's the little things in life that matters. But I would say it doesn't matter as much as the larger picture. Another example is some of you tend to overthink. You know, those situations that keep you up at 3 a.m. thinking to yourself, what was in my mind when I did that? And the situation? Something along the lines of eating the last cookie from the cookie tray at a family reunion 3 years ago. Now I look like a terrible person with no consideration for other people and uncontrollable greed. But the thing is, no one is paying that much attention to you. And if they are, they better be a close friend or a family member, or else that's just a little bit creepy. And it'd be best if you stay away from them, if you know what I mean. My point here is that people tend to be more focused on their lives to be focused on yours. And often, even if they did notice such a small detail, there's hardly a chance that they would remember it to this day. And the judgment isn't often as bad as you may think. Speaking of judgment, when judging an artwork, a person does so via first impressions. And these first impressions are mainly based around their opinions. But these opinions aren't always the same. But that doesn't mean that everything has to be perfect. Perfection is subjective after all. Maybe they don't like the color red. Maybe they hate the idea of realism. Maybe they hate the idea of creepy eyeballs sprouting out of flower fields. Or maybe they just don't know how to enjoy anything in life at all. So what? Just because one person doesn't like it? Why should you stop doing what you love if it's not hurting anyone? So what exactly can you learn from this? Well, for one, the art babies are sure to get a quick guide on how to make their compositions much stronger and to their style. But in all seriousness, you should take into mind that opinions aren't objective. Most of the time, these opinions are just thoughts shaped around a person's perspective. And often, no matter how much you try and please this person, they won't see the appeal. And secondly, you should focus less on the little details in your life and more on the larger picture. Since if you zoom in to draw in all the tiny little details, you will forget to zoom out. And then your composition will be all messed up. And you won't improve. It would only make your own life much more messy. And thirdly, you should simply stop caring. If you care less about what other people think about you, and more of improving on yourself and what you want to do, you would see much more improvement in your own life. This is why I suggest everyone take a step back, care a little less, stop overthinking, and you may just end up creating the best masterpieces in life. Thank you.